What's up, everybody? Thanks for checking out this episode of the podcast. Today, I have Mark England. We talked about all things mindset and, most importantly, practical applications of mindset. Mindset is only as useful as it is practical. It's fun to consume things like podcasts, read books, watch videos. It's only as useful as it is applied to your life. So we talk all about practical mindset. If you don't, this one I totally recommend grabbing a pen, grabbing a piece of paper. There's tons of nuggets, and there's a specific section at the end where you'll have the opportunity to write down some definitions and some tools that you can apply today to your mindset. So sit back, enjoy, and I hope you dig the episode. What's up, Mark? Thanks for hopping on my podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Christian. What's cooking, buddy?
I really appreciate you jumping at me to be on the podcast. I know you tell people in the mindset group that you run that I'm a part of that we'll tell people about, but I appreciate that you push us to do things that are outside of our comfort zone.
You're welcome. It's fun. I've had people do that for me. I still have people do that for me. I use the word hope, conscious. I hope I continue to have people do that for me. And it's honestly, it's really easy. It's pretty easy when I know where y'all want to go, because you know where you want to go. Most people aren't pointed in the direction where they want to go.
Yeah, that's super true. And a lot of people don't even know where they want to go. Like, they just know it's not here.
Dude, negations. Yeah, I can't keep living like this. Sweet. Plug that into Google Maps. See where that gets you.
Where's not here? So backing that up a little bit, will you share for people who don't know who are you and what you do?
Happily. I'm one of the co-founders of Enlifted. I'm the head coach of Enlifted. Enlifted is a language school. Right now, we only teach English. We teach English speakers how to speak English well. We help people get their language working for them. Most people's language is working against them, unbeknownst to them. I've been doing this somewhere between full-time and overtime the whole time for the past 16 years, as in researching, presenting, and coaching about the power of words and stories. And I was an elementary school PE teacher before I got involved in this. I've got a degree in education, so I come from a teaching background, and I'm still teaching. Just it used to be dodgeball, and now it's abracadabra.
I think that's why I connect with you individually and like the way that you convey yourself. I used to be a teacher, and so like you can, when you know what those skills look like and you see somebody else delivering those in a format that's outside of a classroom, it catches your attention.
Yeah. That's, people ask me, like, when did you start working on your language? And I was like, oh, that's easy, teaching. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it like that. And that's absolutely the case. You've heard me say this. When someone is able to take a group of nuclear level excited second graders from point A on campus to point B all the way across campus at the swimming pool, have them dress out, swim the lesson. Everybody survives free swim. Get out. Everybody gets dressed. Everybody's got all their stuff, and then get them back over to that same point A where they're supposed to be on time. You have to be economical with your words. You got to use them well.
Yeah, you have to be clear, concise, and specific,
and repetitive.
Yeah. And I, teaching high school students, I was telling somebody a couple episodes ago about how my members at the gym, they'll come up to me every once in a while. They'll be like, "Hey, I don't know how you handle us, or how do you deal with so and so?" And I'm like, "There's no amount of adults that you could squeeze in this room that compares to 25 freshmen." And the words, you have to be so specific because they're just itching for you to say something a little off, a little funny, a little distracting, a little that they can twist in a way that totally derails the lesson that we're trying to deliver.
I remember being a freshman.
I was not a pleasant person.
I did. Oh God, you weren't?
Not as a freshman, no.
No, me either. No, I did freshman twice. I did it twice. I got moved to a special school.
So speaking of teaching, I wanted to share. I know I shared this with you when we got to meet in person in Virginia, and so I wanted to share how I got connected with you and the impact that like you made for me, and that happened after I had quit teaching. So I taught high school math for 2 years. Halfway through my second year, I'd already had an indication, but halfway through my second year, sealed the deal that like not only was this not for me, I couldn't do it anymore. So I got my CrossFit trainer certificate and decided I'm going to quit and I'm going to go be a CrossFit coach. Well, 2 years into that, of doing odd jobs, trying to scrap for coaching hours where I could, being like 2 to 3 hours a week, max, and realizing that there was no traction happening, I stumbled across you. And I think I stumbled across, I know I've listened to it. I think I initially found you in that Barbell Shrugged episode that you like to talk about so much. And you had put on and so I knew that you were in the mindset space, specifically around language. And I was eyeing up a couple different like mindset sort of coaches because I knew that there was something wrong with my mindset, that it was limiting where I was. And what caught me to you is the message that you share is so digestible and so actionable. And so many other mindset type coaches talk about mindset in the nebulous. And they're like, "Oh, let's be stoic," or "let's, be detached." And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, how do you become stoic? How do you live in a way that's detached? Like we talk about it and we listen to people like Jocko, or, we can read different books, and it's like, okay, that makes sense and feels good, but what does that actually mean for me living out my life? And so you talking about language in a way that conveys the way that I think and I talk directly impacts and dictates the actions that I take, and how that leads to where I am and will lead to where I go, made so much sense to me. And so we had talked how I found that you had started a Facebook group and free Zoom calls called Supercharge Your Affirmations. And we would meet monthly or weekly, and there's like a whole bunch of people in there, like dozens and dozens of people in there. And we would write down affirmations, and we would write things. And I remember one of the affirmations I wrote down is, I am a fun dad.
Mm.
And it started with, I want to be a good father. And that was a time where you worked one-on-one with me, and you're like, well, what does that even, like, what does a good father mean? And it boiled down to, well, I want to be fun. And then father felt biological, and anybody can be a biological father, but it takes somebody special to be a dad. And so I realized, like, oh, a fun dad. And it's not I want to be, I am a fun dad. And that stuck with me, since then. And that boiled into then, okay, I can control my language and reframe my language around being a dad. How else can I reframe this language around what I do with my whole life? And so that was like right around COVID. And so that playing around with my words allowed me and my wife to build the confidence to make the bold decision to move down to Florida. And so we were already not doing great because I wasn't making a ton of money. And she's like, well, I got this opportunity to work this job down in Florida, and it'll be first shift. I'm on second shift, so that's an improvement. And Florida's better than Ohio, so that's an improvement. So we moved down, and then I got plugged in with the CrossFit gym down here. Then continuing to work on my mindset just on my own from like the small things that I've listened from you, just like applying that on my own, then emboldened me to call my gym owner one day. And when I realized after we'd moved down, we'd been down here almost a year, and I realized like I'd already capped my potential to learn and to make money. The ceiling was there, and like, so now this is no longer productive. I need to figure out like, how do I pass this? So I guess I'm going to quit, and I'll figure it out just like I do with teaching. Like maybe I'll start my own gym out of my garage. Who knows? And so I called him one day and I was like, hey, I'm going to be done. This is my like 6-week notice. After we do the CrossFit Open, I'll be gone. I need to go do my own thing. And he said, well, do you want to buy the gym? And like all this time, the dream was, hey, maybe we'll possibly own a CrossFit gym one day. To now we own this CrossFit gym, and we're not just changing people's lives physically, but we're implementing this stuff in the gym and teaching our members that the way you talk to yourself matters. And sometimes it's as simple as them saying, I'm a piece of garbage. And we tell them, don't talk about my friend that way.
That's that gets their attention.
Yeah, because it's one thing when you're like, yeah, I talk to myself like I'm a piece of shit. But it's like, do you talk to your friends like they're a piece of shit?
That's a very good point. If we heard what just pick a friend, if we heard what this particular good friend said to themselves, and or if here it is, if we heard someone talking to our very good friend, how our very good friend speaks to themselves in their head, we'd straight up attack that person.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, look, everybody, them's fighting words. Them's fighting words. It's okay when we do it to ourselves. It's really not okay as far as the outcome of it. You get the outcome in writing, and people are like, that sucks. As far as all the negative ways that trash talk. Can we cuss on here?
Yeah.
Cool. Shit talking, trash talk influences us. Yeah. If we we can deep dive into that if you want. How did you know it was over for you teaching?
It started at I had an inclination towards the end of my student teaching. I called my dad and I was like, hey, I don't know that I want to do this. And I played around with the idea of going to grad school and had a hard time getting the reference letters I needed from my professors, because most of my professors were education professors. And so I was like, well, if I'm not going to go into education, I need to get a math graduate degree. And my math professors, I didn't have any one of them enough times that they were confident to write me a letter of recommendation. And so that was towards the end of the school year. And I was like, well, I got to do something. So I guess I'll just go teach. And so I ended up, that first year was challenging. It wasn't that challenging. It was just challenging because it was new. And everybody had told me like, oh, your first year's tough. So I was like, okay, whatever. This is fine.
Yeah.
That second year, though, it was the beginning of the school year. In the fall, my stepdad died, super unexpectedly, and that sent my whole family into a whirlwind and made me conscious of my own mortality. And I started to reflect on what it is that we were doing, and just like took a step back and like analyzed my wife, my son, our family unit, and like where were we going and what are we doing? And this was the first year that my wife had been working full time and I had been working full time, and this felt like we were setting into place where we were gonna just like end up. Very like my family's very like middle class, buy a suburban house. Your kids go to school there for 13 years. And I went to school, or my dad went to school. And so I saw like, okay, this is where we're just like settling into place. And that word settle scared me.
Mm.
And throughout that school year, as I continued to reflect on that, developed anxiety. And I didn't realize it was anxiety at first. I would catch myself standing in the middle of my room when we were doing like, some group stuff where the kids are walking around and doing an activity, and I would find myself almost paralyzed, where it's like I could walk around, but I found it like the room was so loud that I felt the volume, and I could see the volume of the room. And I didn't understand what that was. I thought I was like going crazy. I was freaking out. My heart rate was jacked. I had messed up breathing. And after talking to a couple colleagues and family members, I realized like, oh, I was experiencing anxiety, and putting two and two together came to the conclusion that this was out of alignment with with what I was designed to do. It was out of alignment with where I was meant to be. And I remember doing a activity in a book that I was reading. It's called Designing Your Life, where a couple professors at Stanford, had taken students through a curriculum that paralleled like graphic design, but it was specifically around exploring different avenues that they enjoy and careers that they enjoy. And so the activity was energy bars. And so you had to fill out this these energy bars on every activity you would do for like a week. And it's like, after the activity, how much energy would you have? And I realized that like going to CrossFit and helping other people filled up my energy bar. Being in the classroom drained my energy bar. And that was when I realized, like, oh, okay, well, this is not for me. And seeing the other teachers that had been doing it for 20, 30 years, that you could tell it wasn't for them, were miserable, they had animosity, they didn't enjoy students. It's like, I don't want that.
It sucks the joy. It sucks the initial why out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when someone's been doing something that they don't like doing for a long time, and okay, let's qualify a long time, over a decade, 15 years, 15 years, you can get away with hiding the effects of doing what you don't like doing for a decade. After about the 15-year mark, it starts to show up on people's faces. It starts to show up on people's faces, and animosity, resentment, that leads to bitterness. And that's at about year 20, 25, 20 years in. And that'll turn people's faces into a fucking raisin. Okay. Because bitterness and joy are eternal enemies. They cannot reside in the same headspace. And a couple things come to mind. So when you said settling down, I've always weirded out on the word settle down. How about you settle down? And I'm like, what about leveling up? Why do I have to settle? It's like I'm settling for something mediocre and then I'm going down. Our language places us psychogeographically speaking, don't I sound smart, in our imagination. We want to get ahead, go above and beyond. Things are looking up versus, I'm falling behind, or I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders, or I'm down in the dumps. I've got a heavy heart. And so our language describes, well, it places us in our mind, in space, in our imagination. And it also, so it's that double-edged sword. It puts us there and then it keeps us there. and then we use it to describe where we're at, and then we get this thing that goes back and forth. So if you see me like moving over here, I'm writing stuff down, and then knowing that this is not for you, I got a guest for you.
Okay.
Her name's Megan Bade, regional CrossFit Games athlete, and she'll tell you all this if you have her on. Cool girl, personal friend. She came down to Austin and attended our 4-hour workshop On It. She's about to graduate. She graduates the police academy next month, and she's like, "This ain't for me," because she knows that'll happen. If she goes in there and stays there, it will it'll suck out the initial why, the initial wanting to help people and be there for people, and it's going to take that from her.
I'm surprised by I guess I'm not surprised. There's so many people, myself included, that go through that. Like they get the degree, they go through the academy, and they're like, and they realize by the time they get done, like, man, this isn't for me, but I put in all this work.
Yep, it's called sunk cost. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called in business. Sunk cost. Yeah, it's close. And when that happens a lot, and I know there's a whole dopamine thing involved with it. And when I knew, Christian, I knew for sure that once I won my first fight, then I was going to feel good enough. I've got a handful of amateur fights, everybody, back in 20 years ago. And I knew that when I won that first fight, I was all of my insecurities and not feeling good enough, it was just going to magically be erased. I knew that. And I lost my first fight. I won my second fight. It was on a Saturday night in Richmond. I came out to the farm on Sunday, and we're having dinner. And remember, like it's yesterday, we were at the table. Talk about terrifying. We're at the table eating dinner, and this wave of insecurity and anxiety and all the stuff that I knew I was never going to experience again once I got the thing, because I was doing the thing for the wrong reasons. I was fighting to prove that I wasn't scared, because I was scared. And then that wave of negative emotion hit me, and I got up I was shocked. And I remember the sun was setting, and I walked out, and I pushed open the screen door. Those country screen doors that creak because they got the spring on them. I love that sound. And then I walked out, and the door smacked behind me, and I can hear everybody talking in there. And I just stare at this setting sun, feeling these feelings. And I was like, fuck. Yeah. And so when I kept going, kept fighting, there's some great, I wouldn't trade that for the world. And I would adjust my story that I was using to fuel my, my training regime, because pre-workouts got nothing on the victim mentality. The real pre-workout for the fitness industry is the victim mentality. I'm going to prove them all wrong. Who are you going to prove all wrong? I'm going to make him want me again. Really? I'm going to show her what she missed out on. Seriously? And all the negativity, the heat, the pressure that builds up from, comparison hell. You get in there and compare yourself to there. I've been doing this 3 years, and they're so much farther along than me. And it's just all this garbage.
And even comparing yourself to your past self. Like people who I was a high school athlete. I took time off, and now I'm back. And now they're like, now I want to weigh what I used to weigh. I want to lift what I used to lift. I want to run what I used to run. It's like, dude, you're a different person.
10 years will do things to you. And it can be very good things. And the swing vote, take it with a grain of salt, everybody, because it's the business that I'm in. It's the story that you tell yourself. It's the story that you tell yourself about yourself. which is what? Mindset. That's I can't say it's the definition of mindset. I can say it's Enlifted's definition of mindset. That's a great exercise. Ask people who talk about mindset a lot, what is it? Well, what is mindset? Huh? What do you mean? Yeah, what is it? Mindset. Or they're going to have some big, huge, complicated answer. You know what that tells me? You know what that is to me? That's not practical. The most important word, the root word of practical is practice. If it's complicated, it's hard to practice, as in it's hard to consciously repeat. Okay, and it's exciting. It's a platinum. it's a diamond encrusted piece of gold opportunity, and it's also a little bit shocking that we're even fucking talking about the words. It's like, why am I talking about this? Why are we even talking about this? I've got an IQ of 11. Why am I talking so much about words and the victim mentality when it's so blatantly obvious? Why isn't everybody in mindset talking about this? It's like, this is the sounds, that language, the words I'm using in my head, the stuff that's coming out of my mouth, and the stuff that I write. Those words build your stories. Those stories build your identity. Your identity is your mindset. The mindset, identity, perspective, those are all the same thing, for different words for the story you tell yourself about yourself. And most people have no training. That's why they're sitting ducks to this thing. No training on how to use their words to stay focused on what's important, keep the drama down, build themselves up in their imagination, unlock their breath, kinda important, be a better listener, all the stuff that you want, folks, all the stuff that you want to become, the stuff that you want to do, the goals, the ways you want to feel, your language, your words, it's directly correlated to your ability to create those things. And the ancients knew it. Abracadabra. It doesn't mean magic. It doesn't mean magic. It's Aramaic. It means with my words I create, or with my words I influence. And most people are creating dumpster fires with incoming nukes about their life in their head, and then dealing with look at the words. Exercise the demons. That's what most people are doing when they come in a gym, a regular gym. Lucky them that they get to come into your gym. Lucky them that they get to come into your gym, because you got the movements and the macros and the words. That's a very big deal. Otherwise, people are coming in, and if the story is not being addressed directly, then people are going to come in and they're going to let off some steam. And they'll say like, oh, I'll go crazy if I don't work out. No, they're serious. They really will. The first certification that we ran, didn't know it was the first cert when we ran it. We retrofitted it, which was super easy to do. May 2019, we went to Paleo Effects. This was the before times, folks. Went to Paleo Effects, and we had a booth for Enlifted, and we did the exact same thing for Procabulary. So Procabulary is the first language brand, language training brand that we created. It was an online course for the general audience. Super easy to take, helps people learn about how to use their words in better ways at home, at work, and in their head. And so we took that same language technology, and with the help of Mike Bledsoe, focused it at the fitness industry and created another online course. Same structure, 21 lessons, 10 minutes a lesson, exact same. And then when we went to Paleo Effects, and we're still on the topic of what happens when people think they can't work out for a week. And so we go to Paleo Effects. We had the best booth there, man. And at the Paleo Effects, was hitting. I'm so glad I got the last 2 years. I would have liked to have gone to all of them. I just didn't know about it. But those last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, man, that place was just popping. And we had one of the, if not the most well-placed booths at PaleoFX, and we were selling a group training using this new online course. It's like 10 weeks, call a week. Mike and I facilitate, and sold about 20 spots. It's cool. And we get in there, and we had some competitive CrossFit athletes, some regional athletes, and then a smattering of people from all over the place. And week 3 was don't work out for a week. Talk about pressing buttons. The look on those people's faces when we said don't work out for a week, they saw what would happen. They saw what would happen. The lid would come off. We had 2 people quit. And both of those regional they quit and said, keep my money. They said, this is legit, and I need it. I just can't do it. It's too much. We hadn't even gotten into the Billy stories. We hadn't even gotten into the one-on-one sessions. It was just the fact that pacification. That was the thing that they knew what would happen if they didn't. So here's a more intelligent approach, everybody. Keep working out. Keep having fun. Keep having fun working out. Keep having fun working out with your friends. Go to class. Go do the WODs. And go into those stories that would rear their ugly head if you stopped. And if you do that, and Christian knows how to do that. Oh, he knows how to do that. He can definitely help you with that. And if you do that, you'll get 10 times more out of your workouts. Because they won't be the Band-Aid for the thing anymore. It'll be a celebration of you being able to do it, as opposed to you going in there to prove yourself worthy for an hour. And then when you walk out the gym and the hormones reset themselves, and you got that same nagging insecurity that you felt since you were 11.
Somebody just asked.
There are people, dude. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Somebody just asked. They reached out to me yesterday about a consult for the gym, and he said, "Yeah, I used to do CrossFit, and I took some time off, and I'm coming back. I used to do CrossFit in the area." And I was like, "Hey, well, why are you calling me then? And why aren't you going back to your other gym?" He said, "Well, I read your website, and I've been on your social media, and you say you're different than everybody else. So I wanted to know, why are you different?" And I explained to him that most CrossFit gyms and coaches and athletes get caught up in, like you described, trying to outwork their demons, and they get caught up in chasing these sexy exercises and going hard and smashing their face into the pavement to avoid thinking about their thinking. And we take the approach of, we're going to make your life better in the gym, physically and psychologically. You're not going to hear me cheerlead you into hurting yourself. I'm going to talk you off a ledge. And an example is, I have a guy who came from powerlifting, and we've been working on his mindset. And we've introduced him to Olympic style weightlifting, so like cleans and snatches, which are way more technical. And it's butting up against. He's realizing, like, I have to develop the skill to pair with my strength to make this happen. And so there's some frustration with that, because it's like, I have the strength, I just need to develop the skill now. And so in his mind, it's like, I should be able to hit this lift, but I don't have the technique. And so this past heavy day, he missed 2 or 3 lifts in a row. And so we told him, hey, back it down, nail the lift. And so I went up to him this morning and said, hey, I heard what happened yesterday. And my coach, Chris, who I talked about mindset a lot, went up to him and, talked to him about it, and I said, next week, we got another Olympic lifting day coming up. Your only goal is no missed lifts. I don't care how heavy you go. But if you look at that bar and there's a question on whether you're going to hit it or not, you're not going to, there's no attempt. Drop the weight down and do no missed lifts. And that's a way different approach than I'm just going to rip it till I hit it and end up getting a 0 for 4 sets in a row.
Smart, very smart. You said what were the words exactly? I'm not gonna cheerlead you into hurting yourself.
Yeah.
That was yeah. And then something else you said. You talked about avoiding. You said that better than I was talking about it earlier. That's a lot of the reason why people go to workout, so they can avoid feeling these feelings for an hour and a half.
That's the pressure release, right? That's the it's the 1 hour of the day that I can just smash my face in the pavement and upregulate my whole body so that it's louder than my thoughts for 60 minutes.
And I'm a big fan of doing that. I don't know if y'all can see that. I got my heavy bags. I still kickbox and going into practice tomorrow. Same gym I've been going to for 26 fucking years, in and out. That's a whole other story. And yeah, I enjoy. Oh my God, do I? I'm a lot slower than I used to be when I was 20, and I'm also a lot smoother. I'm slower, and I'm a lot smoother now because my breathing has improved dramatically, because my story has improved dramatically. If I had the story now if I had the story back then that I had now, it would have been, one, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have kept fighting, and that would have, it was very self-serving and such like that. But I would have trained a lot smarter. I enjoy it more now. I enjoy my workouts more now. Okay. When my head isn't on fire. And yeah, I was using that as an avoidance, which is, is that the most baseline definition of addiction? The things that we use to avoid the stuff we don't like. It's that's how addictions get set up. And people can be addicted to more things than fentanyl. Okay. People can be addicted to more things than alcohol. You can be addicted to exercise. If that's the thing that holds everything together, you're about to explode without it, pick up a pen or just work. Talk to Christian. Talk to Christian and do some sessions with him. Because this is rampant in the fitness industry. It's rampant in the fitness industry. And my grandfather said it a little over 25 years ago. And he was just a simple guy, master boatsmith. They built boats. That whole side of my family, they were German master. They had a marina down in the Chesapeake Bay area, and they built skipjacks, which are flat bottom boats for shallow water oyster dredging. And
it's super niche.
Super niche, and they were the ones. You had to have a French skipjack. And so he was in shape his whole life, because he just go build boats by hand, everybody, and watch what happens. And he goes, if I ever see anyone smiling while they're running, I'll give it a shot. And I thought to myself, that's the most wise thing. It's just look at the faces. Look at the faces in the average face of the average person in the gym. It's not resting bitch face. It's active asshole face.
I will actively make my members laugh in the middle of a hard workout. And I tell us like, this ain't
Is there a waiting
so
list for your
bad
gym yet, Christian?
What'd you say?
Is there a waiting list for your gym yet?
No waiting list. Nope. Doors are open.
Hurry up, folks, because there will be.
Doors are open. Yeah, well, I tell them it's like it's this workout's a lot less miserable when you're smiling. It's easier when you're smiling. You might actually have fun working out if you're smiling.
How about you get a better workout? How can you say such things, Mark England? Before Enlifted was Enlifted, it was called Flow Stated. So Mike Bledsoe, I was living in LA at the time, and he was down in Encinitas, and we'd hang out once a month, and we were going down to a landmark forum graduation. And on the way down there, I was like, hey, dude, let's throw a festival. It's like, you know everybody, and I'm the mouth of the South. We can do this. He goes, cool. We woke up the next day and drank some coffee and like, let's dial that back. Let's do a workshop. Let's do a workshop instead. Cool. What do you want to do it on? Well, I'll do the story stuff. You do the workout stuff. And we did 4, and they were called Flow Stated. Flow Stated. And did the same thing every time. We did the first one at his house for 10 people. Listen, everybody, whatever it is, that just get into it is my advice. Get into it, underthink that shit, and take some small action steps. Because whatever you like, the grand vision of whatever the thing is, it's going to need it's going to need a bunch of iterations, a bunch of reps. And I didn't know what this thing was going to turn into, which it turned into our certification business, which I'm the happiest guy in the world work-wise, because I get to teach something that I love. And I love the people that I meet through this work. The person that wants to think about their thinking, to me, is way more interesting than the person that doesn't.
I can't have normal conversations anymore.
Sorry, not sorry.
I can't have normal conversations anymore with people who don't think about their thinking.
We can talk on that later, because I get it. And same thing for all 4 of those workshops. We had people come in and get the things off their chest, look at the words, which entails picking up a pen and writing it down. Okay. Yes, you can talk this stuff out, and way more effective when the fastest way to slow down a story is to write it down.
It hits different when you read it.
Oh, 1,000%. The easiest way to think about your thinking is to get the words on paper so you can look at them as opposed to believing them. And the same thing happened every time. We did the language and the story stuff. And then Mike put him through a workout. And one of those events was at Travis Mash's gym. Are you familiar with that guy? He's a G in the powerlifting, an OG in the powerlifting scene down there in North Carolina. And some people got some stuff down on paper and aired out, some big stuff. Some people got some seemingly small stuff, and everybody came back and said the same thing. This is what they said. I was way more present in my workout. And I felt the weight different. A couple people PR'd, and they were just like, I just felt better doing it because there wasn't so much distortion coming from their story. How often does distraction? I would imagine the 2 things that get people hurt the most, or the most often, it's distraction. You aren't paying attention, or you're you're going too far. You're overdoing it because you're scared not to overdo it.
Your ego
You're scared to
lifting.
underdo it. Yeah, that's it. I knew there's some words for it. Yeah, you're distracted or you're ego lifting. I mean, what? Let's just ballpark it. We don't have any metrics here, and we're hashing this thing out as we go, Christian. What percentage, in your professional opinion, of injuries are linked to distraction and ego lifting?
75 to 80.
That's a lot, folks. So
And I would say the 20%, like that 25% is from injuries that already existed that people didn't know because their body was parked in the garage. And so you didn't know anything was wrong with it till you started driving it.
injuries are the easiest stories to get to. Injuries. Have you four-stepped anyone's injury stories yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that will happen eventually. Yeah, so everybody remembers when they got hurt. And there's usually, very rarely does anyone write those stories down. Why would I write that story down? So you can process it. Because stories don't get processed when they're kept in the head, folks. They just sit there. They're not just sitting there, they're doing stuff. They're influencing your reticular activating system. They're influencing how you see yourself. They're influencing the story you tell yourself. And injury stories, they're very easy to get to. Everybody remembers when they got hurt, and there's usually a lot of emotion in there, a lot of negative emotion in there, and meaning. It goes hand in hand, which in my simple mind can definitely impede. I'm using my words comically. It does. Negative emotions and chest breathing, also known as upregulated stress states, it impedes the healing process. I mean, is that am I just so out of bounds right there? Is that just crazy talk?
No, it's totally right. Well, and it's because like there's a this is an oversimplification, but there is a neuromuscular connection where your brain talks to your muscles. And if my brain is in this like upregulated, distracted, high stress situation, you're now like limiting the amount of output that brain can communicate with to your muscles. And so it's like, well, how do you expect those muscles, tendons, and your body to perform when you're limiting the flow of information to them?
When I had my second knee surgery, and that actually wasn't the thing that took me out of the fight game, but it was the thing that set up the thing that took me out of the fight game, because I went back to training too soon. That happens too, because I couldn't handle the story that was raging in my head while I wasn't training. Wow, no one else has ever experienced anything like that. That's par for the course. Yeah, you get hurt, park it on the couch, and hello, demons. They're coming. They're crawling through the windows and knocking on the doors and like, oh boy. And the news that the doctor told me, he said, your career as a fighter is over. You could become a very good swimmer. Okay, I've told that story plenty of times. The second part, was when he said, and he delivered it. It was like something out of the Oscars. It had such impact, and he wasn't trying. He wasn't trying to do it. He just did it. And he was Thai, and English was his second language. And he sat and he looked up and he goes, I have one other client, one other patient like you. And he goes, and he can still walk. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do? So I'm just picture it like I like walking. I like doing all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I was in a lot of pain 20 years ago. I'm in no pain now. part of it is because I'm way more relaxed in my body. The body can do amazing things. Get yourself in a down-regulated state and get some good sleep from time to time, and watch what happens. And I kick the bag. I kick the bag up now harder than I used to because I'm not as so fucking stiff in my body because I don't have that. I didn't have that. I've improved the story, which is my mindset. And yeah, I was expecting to be an absolute train wreck of a 47-year-old man, and I'm not. I feel better now than when I was 27, for sure.
Hey, if you made it this far into the episode, I just want to say thanks for checking it out. If you're digging it, then please leave me a 5-star review on Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. You already got the app open, so real quick, just make that happen. That will let me know that you're digging it and help me reach even more people. So I appreciate it, and let's get back to the episode. You were talking earlier about writing down your injury story, and so many people don't realize that they're still living that injury, like it's as if it's still happening. And I just had a gym owner that I helped him work through a story that just recently happened where he had a coach quit. He took the basically gym manager with him, and they said, "Hey, we're going to open up down the street." And he's concerned that his members are going to leave, and all of the anxiety that goes with that. And so I had him, we 4-stepped it. I had him write it down. He read it slow. He breathed through it. And when he was done, he told me in his own words, I was still acting as if it's happening right now. And after I read that, I realized it had happened. It's done. And now I have the space and clarity to move forward.
You broke the spell. Look at the words. I'm under. No one ever says I'm over a spell. I've never heard someone say that, even in context to getting over it. Okay, I've only ever heard I'm under a spell, or they're under the spell. They're under a spell. And the fastest way to break a spell is to write it down. The definition of a spell, everybody, is a word or a combination of words of great influence. So the story that guy wrote down was a combination of words that was greatly influencing him, right? And yeah, we get it. We put ourselves. We get put in. I mean, what's more seductive than a good story, honestly? I don't know negation acknowledged enough about hypnosis, and people. It looks to me like people get placed in hypnotic trances in context of stories, and they stay there until they so that on it workshop that I referenced earlier. I worked with 4 people. There's about 70 people in the room, and I worked with 4 people. First woman was a story of when it was the night before. She's like 50. Time doesn't apply to the emotional body, everybody. Yeah, so that stuff that happened back when you were a kid or in adolescence or when you got bullied, if those stories are still in your head, I guarantee you they're still influencing you in a lot stronger way than you would think. And the remediation of them, fixing that, quote unquote, fixing that is a lot easier than you think. And so her story, it was a before and after story. It was the night before she went to first grade, and she had an anxiety attack. And she's like, I don't even know how old are kids.
6, 7.
6. And she seizes up and in bed by herself because she's telling her the story that I have to get this entire thing I have to get right, because if I don't, nobody will love me. As in every single answer to every single problem, question, everything. So she went into school the entirety of that puckered up, and she said, I've been I've had it's not a fear of failure. She said, I've had a nuclear level paranoid terror of failure ever since. And we 4-stepped that thing, and there was a lot of emotion that came out. And I asked her after the 4th step. So we've talked about it enough. Let's break down what 4-stepping stories is in a second here, Christian, if you're okay with
Yeah,
that.
let's do it.
She said after she finished doing this 4-step process that we're about to share with you, everybody, I asked her what happened after the end of it. And she goes, took her a second because she was thinking. She said, before I was in the horror story, and now I'm watching the horror story. There's a big difference, everybody. I mean, think about it. There's a big difference between being in a horror story, and there's a big difference between watching. There's a big difference between being in a car accident and watching a car accident on your laptop.
I like the horror story analogy because I imagine watching TV, and if I'm watching it, I can turn down the volume. I can put a different show on. But if I'm in the horror story, you're in it.
Gotcha.
Your only objective is to run away from whatever's trying to kill you.
Yeah. That's your ass, Mr. Postman. Christian, what's 4-stepping stories?
What we do is we take whatever shit story is going on in your mind, whether it's something that you're telling yourself, something that's happened in the past. We write it down as step 1. Step 2, we read what you wrote down. Step 3 is we read it again, but we read it slow. And that helps us like digest what it is we're actually reading. Because a lot of people want to just rip through it, skip to the end, pretend it never happened.
Oh no, feelings, no!
Yeah, I gotta sit through the suck. And then the 4th one, the punch to all of it, is as we read it slow, every natural pause and punctuation, we take a big breath in, we blow it out. And if they didn't hit feels by step 4, they do by the end of step 4.
And what happens when someone does that?
It's a release.
He's right.
And it's been cool to hear, the people that I went through, your certification with, as well as other people who've gone through it, people who I've talked to about it, and they all use that word release. And release and some sort of synonym to detach. I've released myself from that. I've detached myself from that, and we're able to look at it, which is a huge, huge step away from being in it. Because in reality, you've continued to live, days, weeks, months, years, reliving an instance that took, sometimes seconds.
Byron Katie has got a good one-liner about that. She said, reality is kinder to us than we are to ourselves. She said, the thing happened once, and we'll replay it 1,000 times in our head and blame life. Which is an understandable thing to do. It's a very I'd be surprised if someone didn't have some animosity towards life, the world, their life. When they have to keep participating, it's not even that they're watching the same scary movie again. They're participating in that same horror story over and over and over again. That fucking wears on you. I get it. I've lived it. And the good news is there's a way to extract yourself out of that story and become the observer. There's a big difference between subjective and objective. Story in your head, subjective, still happening. It's still personal. The story's in you and you're still in the story. Okay? Get that thing, spell, combination of words of great influence. And it could be 2 paragraphs. That's still a spell written out on paper, and you're externalizing it. And then as you read it and get the breath in there, as the breathing returns to normal, feels and emotions come up. So you're letting go of the feels and you're resetting your breathing patterns in context to the story. And then the thing zooms out. And now you're watching it instead of living it. And that is a very big part of your mindset. A very big part of your mindset. Let's keep riffing on mindset. And you mentioned, oh, just be detached, be stoic. Give me the how, bro. Give me the how. How do I do that? Or you just do it. No, you don't just do it. I need the words to facilitate the doing. That's the part that it crushes my head that, like, why am I talking about this? It's like, it's so obvious that we have to have the words in a conversation about mindset in order to be able to practice thinking, speaking, and writing in ways that help us develop the story that we want more of, more often. Obvious. And I was on a rant about something. What the fuck was I talking about?
I don't know, but on that point, like a lot of people start with mindset by consuming, right? They consume a podcast, they watch a video, they read a book, and that's a great place to start, but that's only as useful as it is your ability to apply it. And the easiest way to apply it, what you were getting at, is with the way we talk and with the stories that we have in our head, which start with writing them down.
That's right. Thank you. Yes, victim mentality. So it in my personal and professional opinion, it is impossible to have a thorough conversation about mindset without the words. Okay, when take the words out of it, because that's the rubber meets the road stuff. That's the elbow grease. That's the blue collar stuff. This stuff, big picture, 30,000 foot. Oh, just be this and live above it all. And that's good to talk about stuff. You got to talk about the big picture stuff too. And when it's just big picture, it's not practical. It's exciting. It's sexy. It's like, yeah, let's work on our mindset. Well, how? The words. So that's a very important component of having a thorough conversation about mindset, and then having the definition of the victim mentality involved in the conversation about mindset is equally as important. And Christian, how many people out there talking about mindset have a robust, what's the word I'm looking for?
Definition.
That's the second part. They've got a lot to say and teach and share and help people experience about the words and the definition of the victim mentality. That's not happening very often, is it? And I'm not out in the world in that sense. Like I'm in the dojo teaching this stuff, so I am very ignorant to other mindset certifications. I wasn't at one point in time, and then once we got our shit sorted, like this thing took off, I was like, everybody can just do whatever they're doing. I don't care because I know what we're doing.
No, that's why I love what you have going on. Like I said in the beginning, it's applicable, and that's why I love CrossFit too. CrossFit provides frameworks and definitions for what it is that we do. They have a definition for fitness as work capacity across broad time and modal domains. But if you ask anybody else who's a coach, they're like, what's fitness and how do I get it? And they're like, and there's just a bunch of word vomit. But the ability to articulate exactly what it is that we're describing and how we can improve it is the difference maker to actually having a duplicatable impact, which is what you're doing. Like, you're equipping people to be able to help people with this, which is so much more than you walking around and just trying to talk to every individual person in existence.
Well said. Yeah, they do. I forgot. That's a big deal. They have a definition for fitness. You need a definition for fitness. You need a definition for mindset too. And you're absolutely right. Otherwise, it's a bunch of word vomit. So if it's all right, I'll recite the definition of the victim mentality and give your listeners one thing to do with their words.
Let's do it.
Sound good? Let's do it. So everybody, if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, get it. Very few people have heard the definition of the victim mentality. Even further still, even fewer people have written down the definition of the victim mentality. I suggest writing it down, that whole 30, 50, 80 thing. We remember 30% of what we hear, 50% of what we write, 80% of what we turn around and share and teach. So putting pen to paper gives you get a lot more retention for this. And you want a noodle on the definition of the victim mentality. So first time I'll do it slow. Second time I'll speed it up and add some context. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. Once again, a little faster with some context. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends, it's a tendency, everybody. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. A person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends, underline that word, as in it has to have a habitual thought process and attributions. Habitual accurately implies duration and addiction. So if there's that second sentence is money. If there's a habitual thought process, habitual thoughts, as in reoccurring words, that the victim mentality has to have, I want to know what those reoccurring words are. Call me old-fashioned. I want to know what those reoccurring words are. And then that last part, attributions, what is that? That's a characteristic. The main characteristic is the breath, breathing. Breath trapped in the chest. It's super easy to hate your life when your breath is trapped in your chest. It's super hard to feel comfortable in your skin when your breath is trapped in your chest. It's super easy to take things personally when your breath is trapped in your chest. It's super easy to jump to negative conclusions when your breath is trapped in your chest. It's very easy to demonize people when your breath is trapped in their chest. It's hard to take a good doo-doo when your breath is trapped in your chest. The numbers and sleep. I mean, come on. The number 2 and 3 most commonly prescribed over-the-counter over-the-counter medications are indigestion medication and constipation medication. And in my mind, it's because of the stories. It's because of the words and the stories and the lack of education about mindset, which keeps people in this upregulated stress state, breath trapped in their chest. And guess what? You don't do a lot of things well when you're chest breathing. And 2 of them are digesting your food and doo-dooing. So there's a lot of reasons to improve, make some adjustments, seemingly minor adjustments in your everyday ordinary language. Those habitual thought processes. There's three main pillars of victim mentality language. We call it conflict language. Make it a little more palatable for people. And real quick, keep it simple. Projections, negations, and soft talk. Projections, you never let me think for myself. They are always talking down to me. I need her to respect me more. Or do you need you to respect you more? So that places the blame. That's where the venom is. That's where most people are attached. The most high charged emotions and feelings in people's stories are around projections most of the time. So we'll get to those later, everybody. Negations. I can't keep living like this. There's a picture of me living like this. I won't let that happen again. There's a picture of that happening again. I'm not going to spend all my money this weekend. There's a picture of me spending my money. I shouldn't have to keep putting up with this. There's a picture of me putting up with it again. So negations force you to stare at worst case scenarios, worrying, and a certain flavor of anxiety. Okay. Here's the easy place. Here's the easy stuff, folks. Here's the place to start. It's called soft talk. I'm looking for one of our soft talk keyword sheets. I've got them. It's at the other place. Right. And soft talk, everybody. I'm going to throw a. You know what you're doing. I'll say a soft talk statement, and you say a soft talk statement.
Okay.
We'll go back and forth 3 times, and then we'll break down the words. I think I might be avoiding them.
I think I should possibly start going to the gym.
Maybe I'm getting on my phone too early in the morning.
I could start someday.
It's almost like I'm procrastinating.
I had it. It's almost like that. In my head. I knew you were going to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a kind of, sort of.
It's kind of, sort of like I shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah. I guess I'm avoiding the conversation. Folks, these words are in your language, and it's the easiest place to start. Soft talk is the gateway drug to the rest of your language, because all you got to do is recognize the words, which are easy, okay, and you just pluck them out. So here are, you got your pen? Probably. Get it? And write down these handful of words. I'm about to recite the soft talk keywords, pen to paper. And then, thanks again, reticular activating system, you're going to start noticing these words out and about, because they're out and about, and they're also in your language. Think. Maybe. Might. Sort of. Kind of. Guess. Possibly. Probably. Hopefully. One day. And try. If you start taking, the first time you do it, you're going to feel it. If you start taking those words out of your language, you're going to boost your confidence. Most people like that. And then you're going to go, wait a minute. Christian and Mark, they were serious about all this stuff with the words. Yeah, we are. We're serious and we're sincere. Nobody's coming, folks. Nobody's coming. Nobody's going to change your words for you. Okay? And that's good news, because you wouldn't want that to be the case if that could be the case. So my advice is, keep listening to Christian's podcasts and go in his gym. Sign up. He will help you across the board. And pluck out some soft talk from time to time. See what happens.
I love it. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you. I appreciate that all that you and the other guys in the Enlifted group do. It's totally transformed my life, and now I'm helping people break free from their stories and transform their life. So I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you didn't already, subscribe on the YouTube channel. That lets me know you're digging it. But even more importantly, let me know what your big takeaway was. If you made it this far, that means you got something out of it. So send me a DM or drop in the comments what your big takeaway was. And if your big takeaway was you're ready to be an action taker, you're ready to lean into your passion and unveil what living authentically to you, living authentically to what God has aligned for you, then book a one-on-one discovery call with me to where we can figure out and unveil what those obstacles are preventing you from living that life and provide some direction, some space, and some clarity to moving your life in that direction. So if that sounds like you, click the link in the show notes to book that discovery call so that we can connect. And until next time, thanks for listening.